Old Whitby, the home of moos, philosophical views, and polite refuse.
Thank you for using me.
It also happens to be the home of the Cinder Track park run, a picturesque course which is probably my favourite of all time. With its breathtaking views, lovely volunteers and participants, and favourable running surface, the park run holds a special place in my heart. It was also where I laid down a time of 16:55 in October 2025, which was a major sign I was starting to recover after a torrid time with lupus and APS in that year, which had significantly hindered my running progress. However, the race I got embroiled in at this event, number 244 for the Cinder Track, made this parkrun rise even higher in my estimations, because this was genuinely enthralling.
Okay, timekeepers, are you ready? Runners, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go!
And we have liftoff at the Cinder Track parkrun in Whitby. I wanted to get a fairly quick start here to be ahead of the rest of the pack before the bottleneck, so that I didn't get stuck in it, because this is a notorious sticking point on this course for good times. Now we've navigated that early awkward section, let's have another look at the start, because there was a lot of runners here this week, and it made for a very impressive starting video, which my mum was right on the spot to capture. And as we proceed along this concrete track, all I can think about are the stunning views which are coming up in just a few meters' time. The last time I did this run, in October 2025, this bridge astonished me, and I've been looking forward to seeing it again ever since. And just look at the views as we come up to it now. On one side of it, it feels like you can see the whole of the rolling Yorkshire countryside, and to the other side of it, it feels like you can see a picture postcard view of Whitby. It is absolutely beautiful and completely unique to this parkrun, and definitely one of the reasons why I think anyone should bother to make the trek to this parkrun. The Cinder Track really reminds me of the natural and wild side of parkrun, which is often forgotten in a lot of the grey city parkruns that you see on the internet. You're encouraged to appreciate the sights which surround you, and it really feels like you're immersing yourself in the Yorkshire countryside. However, you may have noticed the deep drain holes in the middle of that bridge, and you've got to be careful not to immerse yourself too deeply in the Yorkshire countryside, otherwise you might be looking at a turned ankle. But that's the end of our sightseeing, and now it's back to the very serious business of trying to win this parkrun, because unfortunately I failed to see parkrun as anything other than a race. I felt pretty good at this point. I was comfortable running at the pace being set by the two determined competitors who were pushing me on, and my breathing was quite relaxed. All signs were telling me to put my absolute all into this challenge and deal with the repercussions at a later date. On the topic of repercussions, this run will probably be my last full-out effort for a while, because the day after this parkrun, I woke up with a really sore throat and congestion, and have had a mildly annoying cold ever since, which has now also given me a cough, on top of all the other lovely treats colds tend to bring. At the time of recording the commentary for this video, nearly 2 weeks later, I'm still feeling the after effects of it, and despite having my normal energy levels back, which was the part of the cold that stopped me running for about 5 days, I'm still taking it easy because it's the first cold I've had since being diagnosed with lupus and APS in January 2025 somehow, so this is new territory and I don't want to be hasty and jeopardise my planned races in the future. I'm hoping to drop a video on my approach to overcoming this cold in the near future. All the way through the race's early exchanges, I kind of wished that the channel budget allowed for a second camera I could put on my back just to capture how close my competitors were behind me. For you, with a clear, winding path ahead of me, it looks like I'm breezing away in first place, when really there are still two very fresh-sounding runners nipping at the backs of my trainers. I was genuinely still thinking at this point that there was a chance I could finish in third place, and I was really determined to just try and outlast them. There was no option but to keep pushing. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I ran this course in October 2025 and did it in a time of 16:55, which was an amazing moment after facing setback after setback in 2025. That's all nice as a victorious memory to look back on, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking to obliterate that previous attempt this time around, because quite a lot has happened since then, and I consider myself in a much better place to lay down a time that I'll show my grandchildren in 50 years' time and say, I did that. I was suffering from a sore Achilles the day before this parkrun, but this seemed like too good of an opportunity to really test my new limits on this challenging parkrun to not go full out. As it happens, the Achilles was only a precursor to the cold I would start to really feel the next day, but I still stand by the fact you should listen to your body, and I only pushed it because I set off and felt really good. The guys motoring behind me were also a motivating factor that helped squeeze some extra seconds off my time, and I ended up running a time that I could really be proud of. Behind me, I could tell that this race was really heating up, so I'll skip to halfway just so you can see how competitive the runners behind me were looking. If the thought, well done Truman bud, you've dropped them, is going through your head, the guy who just passed opposite me was in third. Second place has absolutely stuck to me and ran a clever tactical race, and I've led him up the Cinder Track's infamous false flat and into the headwind. I very much believed I'd been beaten and outsmarted at this point, as he sounded like he'd only just set off and like he had a lot left to give. Comparatively, I felt good, but didn't know if I had a kick in me or not. We'd soon find out. And as Redvest eased past me, he didn't only sound strong, but also looked strong. His form wasn't laboured at all, and quite frankly, I assumed he'd kind of tactically planned to stick behind the leader until he thought it was the right time to attack, and he would now just easily pull away. However, a few factors combined to give me the extra firepower I needed to stick with him. One of these factors was the fact that the wind was suddenly behind us and we were very clearly hurtling downhill. This is such an unbelievably blessed relief when you've done a mile and a bit of steady climbing into wind. It gave me the chance to regain some energy and meant my only focus was catching him. Another factor was the fact I've done this parkrun before and knew that it had a very fast second half. Once you've done battle with the false flat, it almost feels like you can relax a bit to prepare for a slight uphill near the end. The final factor is a bit embarrassing, but it's worth mentioning. I've never been taken over by someone who looks about my age on a parkrun, and the petty side within me was really determined not to lose to another teenager. I'm used to being beaten by runners who are in their late 20s, which is prime running age, and about a foot taller than me, so it felt like a matter of personal pride to keep this guy within about 2 meters of me. If Red Vest was a safe enough distance from me not to catch COVID, it could give him the impetus to widen the gap, and no matter how tired I felt by the bottom of this hill, I still wasn't tired enough to consider forfeiting a parkrun victory, especially to someone near my own age. Oh, it's the kind of pettiness parkrun was made for, but I spoke to this guy afterwards and he turned out to be really nice. Just like me, he ran the Cinder Track because he was on holiday in Whitby, and he was also annoyed when someone of a similar ability to him turned up, because obviously at that point you have to race them. Conversing with this guy, who was my fiercest rival for 16 minutes, also helped make one of the parkrun's main values a lot clearer. The friendly competitiveness of parkrun was there for all to see as we discussed our own local parkruns and running journeys for a good 10 minutes after finishing. With me being from Lincolnshire and him from London, our running experiences were very different, and this shows another major value of parkrun in bringing together people from different backgrounds. My competitor at this parkrun happened to be from London, and we discussed Nick Bester and Parliament Hill. But parkruns give you a chance to engage with people from all around the world. It is so exciting that tourists at a parkrun could hail from London or Latvia, Leeds or Lesotho, and no social event quite brings people together like them. I still had Red Vest firmly within my sights, but as we worked our way down towards the finish line, I still didn't feel like I had even slightly dented his confidence or energy levels. He certainly hadn't crept much further away from me, but I still very much assumed he was just preparing for a big finish. However, I knew that there wasn't much more than a mile left to run, and that if I emptied the tank and did my very best to keep up with him, there would be no reason to have regrets about the race. I know that it sounds weird, but apparently parkrun can also be a race against yourself. Now I know I'm the guy who ran it, but given how easily Red Vest seems to be striding away from me, I'm surprised to say that I was still in this race. If the middle period of this parkrun was a section of a film where all hope seems lost, like when the theatre is flooded in Sing, this was certainly the part where Buster hears Mina singing and is like, heck yeah, let's put on this show anyway. I suddenly got second wind and was now more confident I could take the race leader to the finish line. However, the small question of whether I could beat him still remained. We're going back across this stunning bridge, but this was no time for sightseeing. My eyes were fixed on my opponent and on the path to come only. Let's skip ahead a little to the tasty conclusion of this duel. You rejoin us as the showdown between me and Red Vest continued. As she was poised with her camera, let's get a mum's eye view of this battle.
Well done, guys. Well done. Go on, Truman.
He was still speeding along, and despite the fact I looked pretty tired from that angle, I had kept him within my sights and still felt this race was very much all to play for. The ramp where you just saw some of the volunteers and families standing is the ramp up to the finish line, and I knew that we had to head down to a turning point around 500 metres away and back again before we could officially gain access to that glorious ramp. I remember making a point of increasing my speed in a purposeful effort to fully empty the tank, because I knew we were fast running out of path, and also knew that I could capitalise on an uphill finish, because for some reason I'm quite good at running uphill, despite the fact I hate hills. As you probably saw, we did just temporarily draw level with Red Vest, which was a real incentive for me to just keep pushing, because he finally seemed to maybe be tiring and slowing just a little. He did take me back over after that, but the adrenaline of the finishing straight had very much kicked in by this point and given me a second wind and a real belief I could beat him. And I wasn't a particularly swift turner there, but I saw an opportunity, and with only a few hundred meters left, I absolutely grasped it. For the first time in almost a mile and a half of running, I was back in the lead and feeling the best I had all race. I am a terrible sprint finisher, so I tried to open up a gap on Redvest while not looking back because I knew that this would waste precious milliseconds. As I moved back towards the lovely old bridge, which is only a stone's throw from the finish, Redvest's footsteps were sounding more and more distant by the second. For once, I'd managed to pull off a tactical move, and despite the fact my mind was still convincing me Redvest was going to sprint past us any second, the finish line was getting ever closer. When I set off on this parkrun and two runners stuck with me, I was pretty certain I wasn't going to be able to win at the Cinder Track. With the amount they pushed me to my very limits of this parkrun, let's just say I was glad to cross the finish line, no matter my position. I'll shut up so you can listen to this finish. And that was the sweet end of my run at the Cinder Track. I'm very pleased to report I finished first in a time of 15:57, knocking 58 seconds from my time the last time I ran here. It really is an immense parkrun that I want to return to time and time again. Another perk of this parkrun is that you can go into the on-site cafe after you have finished because the amazing volunteers help provide runners with everything from Twixes to bacon baps to replenish their energy after a hard morning of running. Like the true athlete I am, I decided to rehydrate with the diuretic tea, resisting the baps and chocolate bars on offer because I wanted to try some multigrain cereals which were in the cottage we were staying at. If you're still here, thank you for watching the whole video. I put a lot of work into this video, and please do consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching.